Internet. I am Insane Lane as well as a Canadian girl, and we have a kind of interesting video today. Um, I've seen a lot of sovereign citizen videos. If you don't know what that is, be warned if you Google, it's a very deep rabbit hole. There's a lot of different flavors and varieties. You seem to have found a couple of kind of edge of edge of Sobsit or kind of Sobsit light people today. So I thought it would be a good idea to jump in, try and break this video down and explain what laws, as far as I'm aware, again, this is from doing research, I'm not a lawyer, seem to apply here, because this seems like a good example of several things. So let's see what this is about.
Hello. How you doing? Hey, I'm Deputy Harris from Clark County. Reason I'm stopping you, not wearing your seatbelt.
Okay, so we're in Florida. That will become important. This is a work truck. It's a landscaping company, and these guys are being pulled over because they weren't wearing a seatbelt. Should be very simple, very straightforward thing.
Driver's license, registration, insurance, please. Okay. Hey, can I have yours too? You're not wearing your seatbelt. Sir, I need your license.
Okay, so the driver hands over his license.
Yo, man. You listening? Do you speak English? Yo, driver. Does he speak English?
Ask him, bro. Like, I'm the one driving, bro. Like,
all right, cool.
Okay, so the officer is asking that the passenger also ID himself. Now, there's a couple things that are relevant here. The driver obviously has to identify because you have to be carrying a license or some proof of having a license to drive, but it's different when it comes to the passenger. I looked it up, and in Florida is considered a stop and ID state. However, there are limits to that. The police can't just stop and ID anybody they want at random. That's not how it works. They have to have a reasonable suspicion of a crime or that somebody is involved in a crime to have probable cause to ask for their ID. So what the officer said is the passenger is also not wearing a seatbelt. Technically, that's a crime. That gives him the right to ask the passenger for his ID.
214 Fargo. That's 6942.
So the driver's being chill. It's also good that he knows where the registration and insurance are in a work vehicle.
I can't understand. You gotta talk slower. You do have the right to remain silent, but you have to identify yourself on a traffic stop. You committed a traffic infraction having not worn. Are you refusing to identify yourself?
This cop already sounds so exasperated. Like, come on, man. Like, this should be so easy. Like, I think I was probably going to let the passenger off with like a nothing or a warning. Because the driver's the one you're concerned about. But now this guy doesn't want to ID himself, which, again, the cop does have the right to. And according to another Supreme Court case, I think it's called Maryland v. Wilson, he can ask him to get out of the car as well. And Pennsylvania versus Mims means he can get the driver out of the car, but he hasn't done that because the driver is cooperating. The passenger, for some reason, doesn't want to show his ID. Maybe he has a reason for that.
Are you gonna give me your name? You're not. You gonna go to jail for this, bro?
Do you really want to be the guy in the jail that says, I'm here for not wearing a seatbelt?
What is the issue? No issue. I just know my rights.
I'm sure that you do.
You are a passenger,
yeah,
but you're required to wear your seatbelt in the front seat of a vehicle.
Yep.
I mean, you really want to take the jail for something so foolish? I'm doing my job.
Like, this is where I'm not understanding.
And you're not wearing your seatbelt. Okay.
So this guy says that because he's not driving, he doesn't have to ID. If he'd been wearing a seatbelt, he's right. But he's wrong because he wasn't wearing a seatbelt. Technically, he broke the law. That gives the cop the right to ID him. I think the cop could explain that, like, once at least, just to justify to this guy. But it is very weird that this person's just like, I'm not going to give you my ID. Just take me to jail. Like, yeah, so I understand why the cop's like, do you have a warrant or something? Because I would be thinking the same.
So now, dude, you're really about to... All right.
But the cop is doing his job. Something's up.
Get everybody back.
I mean, and this guy's totally cooperative. He's being completely cool. So I don't know what's up.
If you don't got no warrant, no probation, you really gonna go?
Yeah, if he's telling the truth.
Yeah, exactly. So like, you know it's bull drive, and I ain't commit no crime.
You do it.
I'm assuming bull drive means BS in Florida. Okay, see, this is where we're getting a little like sus because he's saying he's gonna sue him. I'm like, I don't think you have cause, dude. He's got a reason to identify you. You're refusing to give it. You're kind of forcing him to arrest you.
Nothing in the back of my car. Anything that you have that I didn't find is that.
This is such an example of like volunteering to be arrested.
Get in, please. Can you give him my?
Get in.
I'm not sure what he said there, but he's being super chill.
Whose truck is this?
This is the company's truck, bro.
I feel bad for the driver.
This might be a reason. Do we have to wait for everything for him and stuff? Like,
Yeah, unfortunately.
how you doing?
Deputy Mistretta, Fly County.
Okay, now we have this guy.
Yeah, pulled over. I'm just. Well, I know he has to take care of him, but I just asked because I'm at work and everything. Do I have to like?
Yeah, he's trying to do his job.
Did you provide your driver's license?
He has my license, yeah.
Yeah, he's cool.
My registration or anything. He took the guy in, but then I asked him.
You got the registration?
Yeah. I asked him what was going on.
You got insurance?
Yes, everything. Yeah.
Okay, so as I've cut myself off before, but good that in a work vehicle they know where the registration and the insurance is, because sometimes with work vehicles people don't know where it is, or sometimes it's not kept in the car for like safety reasons in case the car gets broken into. They don't want the paperwork stolen, so it's in a file cabinet in the office. So it's good that they knew where it was and had it in hand.
Do you have an ID?
Why do you need mine?
Just asking for it.
Yeah, I don't see a real need just for you guys to have my ID. I wouldn't break any laws or anything.
Okay.
So, I mean, I don't see. I mean, I give it to you, but then as soon as you guys run my name, you put goes in your little system thing, and I don't see a real need for that.
What system thing? I really don't have any idea.
I'm sure you do, but there's no need for me. You know, I was wearing my seatbelt, so you know, I have no problem. I don't see a need for you guys to have to run my name, right? I mean, what you could give me a logical reason of why you would need to run my name.
Well, you're on a traffic stop, and
I'm not on a traffic stop. There are.
Are you inside of a vehicle that is?
I wasn't committing any crime, so.
Okay.
You know, like I said, you know, like they had a traffic infraction. They weren't wearing their seatbelts. I was, but if you could give me a logical reason other than that, just other than being in a vehicle and you stop coming in my presence, that's not a legitimate reason.
Okay. While I was speaking before you cut me off, I was explaining you are on a traffic stop.
No, he's on a traffic stop. I have nothing to do with this traffic stop.
Okay, there's a lot to break down here. So far, I'm 100% agreeing with this guy, because I'm not talking about whether he's on a traffic stop or not. I'll get there in a minute. But he's saying he was wearing his seatbelt, and the first officer didn't say that he wasn't. And he did notice the passenger on the other side wasn't, so I'm assuming he also looked at this guy and saw that he was wearing a seatbelt. So since this guy was wearing a seatbelt, he wasn't breaking the law, and therefore, from what I can understand, no, the cops do not have reason to identify him because he's not believed to have committed a crime. So far he's right. He doesn't have to give his ID. As to whether he is involved in a traffic stop, that is so far over my head. Is he in a car that is being held in a traffic stop? Yes. But was he the driver or the front seat passenger? No. So I'm not exactly sure. Like, it's probably one of those questions that they use in like law school debates. Like, is this guy who's in the back seat, is a backseat passenger, is he technically legally under a traffic stop or not? I don't know. If you do know, please leave it in the comments. I would genuinely like an answer if any court has ever decided that. But it doesn't seem like a thing that matters. You know, I understand he doesn't want to give his ID. I don't know anything about, like, it'll be in the system. I don't know if the police, this is in America, I don't know. If for some reason you do identify to the police, but you're not involved in a crime and you're not so much as written a ticket, is there any record that they actually ran your ID? Is there any database of that? I don't think so. You know, or maybe it's one of those conspiracy theory things. I don't know.
Believe you are inside of a vehicle. That is part of.
Nothing to do with it.
Okay. Do you want me to give you a logical reason, or you want to keep talking over me?
No, I want you to give me the law. If you can't state the law of why you can pull someone else's ID,
listen,
you could ask, and I could request.
You asked for a logical reason, and I'm explaining.
You requested my ID, did you not? And I denied your request.
I'm not going to run circles. You asked for a logical reason. Okay. I'm trying to provide it, but you rudely cut me off.
Nothing you say is going to be logical, sir. I did no crimes.
You didn't even get to hear.
Okay, he could do the officer the respect of letting him talk.
Like I said, I know
because until you let him talk, you don't know if he has a reason or not.
This is his traffic stop. He's the
You're asking him for a reason. Let him answer.
This is not. I didn't have any infractions, so you got to know what you're talking about.
Oh, I know what I'm talking about. I've been doing this job a long time.
My ID in the back seat.
He can,
just because I'm in the vehicle.
Keyword being request. There's nothing that says a cop can't ask for your ID at any time. The questions come in where they have the legal right to demand your ID. Front seat passenger guy wasn't wearing a seatbelt. That's a crime. They have the right to demand his ID. This guy was wearing a seatbelt. They don't have the legal right to demand his ID right now. But for all we know, the cop may have another reason. This guy isn't letting him talk. Now, he did ask the cop to state what law gives him the right to ID, which the cop hasn't done, and it's probably because there isn't one. But the guy in the truck is like, he needs to just listen for a minute, let the cop finish what he's saying, and then you can argue with him if you want to.
Rear passenger have a seatbelt on?
I don't know.
See, that's...
He's not, rear passenger is not required to wear it.
I know, he was just arguing.
Oh, interesting. Okay, interesting. Okay, so yes, he's checking with the cop because I think he's thinking, yeah, if he wasn't wearing a seatbelt, then he committed a crime. But interesting, this officer just said apparently rear seat passenger not required to be wearing a seatbelt? Is that a Florida thing or a U.S. thing? That's weird. I'm gonna look that up. 2 secs. Okay, the things you learn. Apparently, only in 39 states is there a law that specifically says an adult passenger that is in the back seat of a car must wear a seatbelt. And of the states that do not have that law, Florida is one of them. So it is correct that the guy in the back seat actually legally is not required to wear a seatbelt. Now I'm curious if the officer that was speaking to him actually knew that or not, because he made the point of asking the first officer on the scene if the guy in the back seat was wearing a seatbelt. I assume because he was planning to use that as his legal reason to ID him, because not wearing a seatbelt would be a crime, same as the guy in the front seat. However, the first officer on scene correctly says that the guy in the back seat is not required to wear one. Therefore, even whether he was or he wasn't, you don't have a reason to ID him. Learn something new every day.
I don't know. Do I have to wait?
I feel bad for the driver because he's been like completely chill and cooperative, and he's just stuck here.
I'm just gonna have to keep waiting.
Like, I hope he doesn't get in trouble. I really do, because this is so not his fault.
So we all good?
Did you get the ticket yet?
I don't get a ticket. I mean, so
he's correct.
No, I'm just saying, between me and you, we all good. You don't need my ID, right?
See,
I'm not gonna keep running circles.
No, I'm just saying.
Oh, officer, come on! You could have been the bigger man there.
Ask me for my ID.
All right, I'm gonna throw in 2 cents worth of snark. Okay, the guy in the back is being, he's poking at the cop a little bit because he knows he's right and that he doesn't have to ID, and he wants the cop to admit it. Would I do that if I was in a petty mood? Maybe. I might. But come on, officer, you can be the bigger man and say, no, I don't require your ID, sir. And just stop talking after that. You could have set a very fine example there. Instead of doing the, instead of doing this. Oh.
And I'm under threat for arrest because I need a lawsuit, just let me know.
See, this is what I mean about the soft sit type comments.
Not everybody's entitled.
Where he's talking about being under threat of duress and lawsuits.
Well, let me
Yep.
Needs to be belted at all times.
Yep.
You don't. Technically in the rear, you don't have to be. You don't have to be. Which is what that's why I didn't talk to you. I don't care. If you don't want to, you want to get a crash and die. I'll do the paperwork. And
I didn't know that one. That's interesting.
Yeah. But that goofy over there.
Oh, that is some top level snark.
But now he's going to jail.
Well, that's what I'm saying. He asked me for my ID, and
We can ask.
I can request denied, right?
Yeah, you can ask.
So that's why I was trying to make sure that I was good with him.
Yeah.
Or they go to jail. All right, so you're gonna get a citation for not wearing the seatbelt. All right, it's a non-moving.
Yeah, first guy knows his stuff. This cop is awesome.
Or you can just speak to court.
He's big A+ with a gold star.
My name is on the bottom. If you want to file a complaint, do whatever you like. All right, man, you're all good to go. Actually, you want to take his black tomorrow? You can't take that to jail.
All right, so that's that. We got one guy going to jail because he refused to ID himself and they had a legal reason. We got a guy in the back who was right and wants the cop to admit it. And the cop who's not going to. Second cop, I still give you an A+, but you get no gold star because you had the opportunity to be the bigger man and you didn't take it. So you get no gold star, but you're still A+. What are your thoughts on this video? Why do you think the front seat passenger refused to give his ID? Do you think he genuinely has no warrants, not on probation, nothing, and he's just being stubborn? And maybe doesn't understand that by not wearing a seatbelt, that does, even though that is an extremely minor thing. Though, well, I suppose its minorness depends on whether you go flying through the windshield and die, as the cop made a joke about. Not saying that was the most professional comment, but it made me laugh, okay? I'm human, cut me some slack. But, yeah, why do you think the second guy would not ID, and do you think that he was unaware that he had to because the seatbelt violation gave them cause, or that he was hiding something? Did you know that only 39 states require adults in the back seat to be buckled in? I didn't know this. But I have been Insane Lane as well as a Canadian girl. Have a great rest of your day and come back for more videos soon. Please like, comment, and subscribe. Bye-bye.